Welcome back to Fashion Shirts. Today I'm going to be doing my season preview for the Scuderia Ferrari for the 2026 F1 season. So of course, Ferrari, probably the team that just regardless of where they are in the Drivers' Championship, or I should say Constructors' Championship, there's always going to be a lot of attention, a lot of scrutiny on this team. And after a very, very difficult 2025 season where expectations going into that season were they'd be competing for the championship, a couple of really fundamental issues on their car really did not allow that to materialize, and they ended up slipping to being the pretty solidly the fourth best team this past year. But starting this preview out, just want to take a look at some of the key personnel involved in this team. So really similar to last year, I believe all these personnel are the same. Of course, as always, Ferrari is based in Maranello in Italy. Team principal Frederick Vasseur. I do think that there's going to be quite a bit of pressure on him this year, especially with the failure of 2025. If 2026 is another bust, I could definitely see a new team principal coming in 2027. Now, in terms of technical directors, they have three different ones, one for chassis, aero, and power unit, and those are Loic Serra, Diego Tondi, and Enrico Gualtieri. Of course, this being Scuderia Ferrari, they have their own Works Ferrari engine. Now, for 2025, like I basically alluded to last year, a couple minutes ago, not last year, they've basically been fourth pretty solidly across the board in 2025. Fourth in the Constructors' Championship, 398 points. Their average pole gap slid back compared to the year before, 0.507 seconds. So again, about 4.5 tenths off of McLaren's on average. And only about 2 tenths or so in front of the midfield. So again, very, very close. But of course, we expect that those gaps to increase dramatically this year. In terms of average minimum finishing position as well, 4.21, so not even really considered a front-running team by my calculations. And again, fourth in the constructors last year. It's definitely a really disappointing year for the team as a whole, although I think 90% of people, actually I should say 99% of the people, with the exception of John Elkann, really put the blame on the car and not really on their drivers. Now, before we get to the drivers, I want to take a look at Ferrari's record in the first year of new regulations, and generally it's not been great historically. 2009, of course, these were the regulations that were basically the anti-Ferrari rules that came in to basically try to stop Ferrari's run of dominance. So again, not really Ferrari's fault that they didn't do great this year, given that these regulations were basically targeted to hurt them as much as possible, such as things like banning tire changes. So the team finished third in the Constructors that year with 100 points. A little bit lucky to even get 100 points, as they, of course, benefited quite a bit from the results of Indy 2005. 2009, of course, 2008, the year before, they're in that very, very intense title fight with, very, very intense title fight with McLaren, I should say, and Lewis Hamilton, obviously losing that title on the final lap of the season. 2009, both them and McLaren kind of come into the season on the back foot, ends up fourth in the championship with 70 points. Obviously, some of that's due to the fact that Massa, of course, gets hurt midway through the season, then they're stuck relying on Bador and Fisichella for the rest of the season, weren't able to pick up a ton of points. In fact, I believe no points between the two of them. So again, points total a little bit misleading there. Then we get to 2014, and this was definitely a disaster of a car. They finished fourth in the Constructors, 216 points. This was the car that infamously understeered and oversteered in the same corner, according to some onboards that you can see from that season. It was a pretty dreadful car. Alonso made the most of it, but it was a pretty awful car. The engine, I don't think was that bad. I think the engine was generally better than the Renault, but the chassis was pretty awful. And then we get to 2022, which again is going to be a really painful memory for a lot of Ferrari fans, as the season started out so well. Arguably the strongest car for basically the first quarter of the season, but by the end of the season, in large part due to the technical regulation that came in mid-season that affected the floor, they basically really went off the pace and basically ended the season as the third best team. But overall, finished second in the Constructors, 554 points. So this is a team that historically has not been great first year of a new regulations. The last four major ones, they've not come out on top. So again, I think most people would expect, the safe expectation would be that they probably won't come on top this year either. But that being said, there was a bit of hope with the first shakedown, the first test that we had last week in Barcelona. So moving on to taking a look at their drivers, of course, retaining their driver lineup from 2025, Charles Leclerc and Lewis Hamilton. Leclerc from Monaco enters the season 28 years of age. This is his 9th season in Formula One. Time flies very, very quickly, and of course, his 8th at Ferrari. 171 starts to his name with 1,672 points, with his career best in the Drivers' Championship being second in that he set in 2022. Of course, the comparisons to John Alesi will continue until things change for Leclerc. Unfortunately, Alesi, of course, was regarded as one of the best drivers in the 90s, never able to win a championship, mostly because of poor machinery. And so for Leclerc, this is going to be a really big year. If Ferrari can start off very, very well, perhaps things can develop into a title. If not this year, maybe in the coming years. Or if things start off really poorly, that could potentially signal the end of Leclerc and Ferrari's time together. So I think really, really pivotal year for Leclerc. Now for Hamilton, of course, this is his second season after his big move to Ferrari after about a decade at Mercedes. From the UK, 41 years of age, and this is his 20th season in F1, so almost 2 decades in the sport for Hamilton. Again, just like with Leclerc, you can really say time flies with this one. Now, for Hamilton, of course, 380 starts, second highest on the grid, only behind Alonso. 5,018.5 points, again, the all-time record for points, although, again, point system does help him a little bit there. Now, in terms of career best, he, of course, is the joint all-time leader in terms of drivers' championships with 7, tied with Michael Schumacher, of course. Now, looking at some more advanced stats for both drivers, in terms of wins, Leclerc is on 8, Hamilton 105, pole positions 27 for Leclerc, which makes that pole-to-win ratio look very, very bad. But I assure people it's not because Leclerc is bad in Grand Prix. It's because I think part of it is a little bit of overperformance on Leclerc's part, and also part of it, I think, is just Ferrari have always, for most of his time at the team, have been a better car in qualifying than in the races. Now for Hamilton, very, very close to his win total, 104. And for podiums, 50 for Leclerc already, despite the mostly not great cars he's had. I mean, obviously, pretty good cars. He's been in front-running cars most of his career, but still, he's never really had a true championship challenging car. And as for Hamilton, 202 podiums, those at wins, poles, and podiums, those are all best all-time for Hamilton. Now, when you look at their career results with my expected points model, a little bit of interesting results here. They're actually dead even on 106%. So again, definitely more than expected, but still interesting that neither of them are kind of in that top bracket in terms of point above expected for drivers who have spent most of their career in front-running machinery. Now, when you look at their age and experience corrected career quality rating and race rating, it's pretty interesting. The comparison for Leclerc, he ranks 3rd all-time since 1995, negative 0.53. For Hamilton, just a little bit behind, negative 0.509, which ranks in 4th. As for race rating, again, very close, but Hamilton does have the edge here. Positive 1.135 for Hamilton, which ranks 4th all-time since 1995, and Leclerc, positive 0.806, which ranks 7th. So both drivers, for their career, averages, are both in the top 10 since 1995, which is, excellent. And shows that generally, even if you can maybe have question marks about Hamilton's performance, particularly qualifying in recent years, in terms of their all-time career achievements, this is a very, very good lineup. Now, in terms of predictions for this season, obviously we have a year of data between the two drivers. So again, expectation is you could basically take last year and say about the same as that. But I think that realistically speaking, it does seem like one, I think Hamilton will likely be a little bit more embedded into Ferrari than last year, and the second is that I think in all likelihood these regulations are probably going to suit him a little bit better than the previous ground effect regulations, and that I think will only be a positive impact. So I think if anything, I expect the results to be in both qualifying and race trim to be a little bit closer than they were last year. That's just my personal prediction, but the model for both the qualifying and race predictions have predict Leclerc to outqualify Hamilton by about a median gap of negative 0.196. So a little bit bigger than last year, which again, with Hamilton being another year older, would make a little bit sense. And assuming this team gets 500 points, it would expect Leclerc to get 51.2% of the points and Hamilton to get 48.2%. So it does expect Leclerc to beat Hamilton in the Drivers' Championship. Again, 500 points. If it's 500 points total, it would expect Leclerc to be ahead of Hamilton by about 18 points, which is actually quite a bit smaller than what they had this past season, where I think the gap was pretty close to about 100 points. So that would be much closer. But again, if these regulations suit Hamilton more, that would be, I think, closer to what many people would expect. It's going to be a big year for both their drivers and for Ferrari as well. If Hamilton, for example, has a really poor season, it could potentially spell the end for his F1 career. He may just choose to quit the sport, or likewise, Ferrari might decide that Hamilton's not giving them the performances that they want, despite whatever commercial benefits they get from Hamilton being there, and of course, lots of merch sales I would expect, given that many Hamilton fans will enjoy buying, Hamilton Ferrari merchandise. And like I kind of mentioned with Leclerc, it's a big year too. If things look really, really bad for 2026, I could definitely see Leclerc looking elsewhere if his contract allows it. If things look great, though, I'm sure that Leclerc would probably be very, very happy to stay for more years to come. But nonetheless, I think it's going to be a really, really big year for Ferrari. New regulation change. Last time we had a big regulation change, things got off on the right foot and then soured basically very, very quickly. So it'll be interesting to see how things go. Of course, as of time recording of this video, it's a little bit about a week after the Barcelona test, like I said at the beginning. And again, I think Ferrari had a good test. They looked pretty good. I would still put them behind Mercedes, but I think they're definitely look solid, and they're definitely in a much better spot than the teams towards the bottom, like Cadillac, Audi, Williams, even, who of course didn't show up. So I think at bare minimum, I would expect Ferrari to be in like the top four teams. I think is a pretty solid bet. Where exactly they are in that top four, really, really hard to say. And again, we're not going to have a great idea until the first couple races of the season. But again, we might have a little bit of a clearer picture after the tests in Bahrain. So there you go. That is my preview for Ferrari's 2026 F1 season. Hope it's a great year for the team and a great year for its drivers. But again, it can't be a great year for everyone. Some teams are going to do great, and other teams are going to fall well short of expectations. So there you go. Thank you so much for watching, and goodbye.